It's Thursday, May 18th, 2023, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 429. Our fearless leader, Tim, is on the road today. He will probably not be here. If he tries to call in, I've told Eric, don't unmute him. So me, Bruce and myself and Kelly and our coaches will handle it. No problem. I did want to start today, guys, with just a couple brief stories. As you know, a couple months ago, we formed a partnership with a loan modification company who's been giving us people they can't help, and we've been referring them to you guys. And by the way, my sales team says every time I mention that, I have to say, we know you want one. You don't have to sign up. If you don't have one from us yet, we just don't have one in your market. So I promise eventually they're coming. But it's been 2 months so far. I think we probably sent out 150 leads. And it amazes me, after 50 years in the business, I learned something, and things still surprise me. Two things have really surprised and impressed me. The thing that surprised me the most is the percentage of people that are absolutely desperate. They have no option. You throw them a lifeline and they would rather just drown. I mean, it just is absolutely amazing to me how many people have no other choice and they still do nothing and get foreclosed. And the other more positive thing that I've noticed, I've had probably a dozen cases where it was such a hopeless situation, I wasn't even going to reach out to the agent. And how resourceful and creative you guys are, that I don't do that anymore. No matter how ridiculous it seems, I reach out. And a good example is Michael Young there in Southern California, where the sale was scheduled for the next day. And he actually had an attorney that he'd given so much business to. The attorney jumped in and stopped the sale. Michael listed it on Monday, had 27 offers by the end of the week. And you know, it's closing next week. And I had another one this week, and I asked Carrie to unmute herself, and it actually reminded me of, well, first of all, I learned something. I thought that Michigan was the only state that had a redemption period, and I learned that in Minnesota they have a similar redemption period, and there may be other states that have that. If you're in I know in Florida it's a 10-day redemption period, which is kind of useless, but I reached out to Carrie with the deal that scheduled to foreclose in 2 weeks. I thought it had no chance. The guy, it's worth $350. He said he might take $325 for a quick sale, and he didn't want to move under any circumstances. So sounds pretty hopeless, but I reached out to Carrie, and nothing's been finalized yet, but she has an investor that I guess Carrie likes that neighborhood. And is he a buy and hold investor? Is that why he's willing to basically pay that much?
Well, we hadn't talked about price yet, but the pain point with the seller, the owner, is that he does not want to move. So he had mentioned to me, oh, I'm talking to some investors who might buy it and rent it back to me. But I think that fell through. So then I just kind of kept following up with him. And I do have an investor that is interested in purchasing and renting it back to him. And he's very savvy with figuring out complicated situations. And instead of the owner paying a commission, this investor, if the deal happens, will pay a commission. So we're still talking with him, and kind of to your point, Jim, about you try to throw people a lifeline. Sometimes it just takes them a while to get their head out of the sand. And I think there's a pretty good chance that we can put this together. I think reality takes a while for it to sink in, and they know they have to do something.
Sure. So, I had one a couple months ago, and I called the guy 3 or 4 times, and the realtor went out there, and every time he went out there, the seller would hide, didn't want to talk to him. And he called me. He had a foreclosure in 2 weeks. He said his wife had decided she didn't want to move. So it's just the illogic of some people. But the conversation with you, Carrie, you reminded me, my wife and I, prior to 2008, we were buying and flipping 3 to 5 properties a month. And in recent years, it's been 1 or 2 a year. We're a lot more conservative. We kind of learned our lesson in 2008. But the very last one that we did last year, the agent called and said, I've got an offer coming, cash offer from an investor. And I said, that's great, but we're not really looking to sell below market. It blew me. The offer came in at full value. It was one of these funds that all they cared about was the cap rate. As long as, and not that your guy will do that, but it just reminded me that is a tool that every one of us should have in our toolbox, is a buy and hold investor in that neighborhood, and possibly even one of these funds that if a seller wants to stay, or if you don't have another way to sell the property, sometimes they will actually pay market value. As an investor, I would never even think of paying anywhere near market value, but I don't have $1 billion to invest either, like some of these people do. And Bruce, I know you've mentioned in the past that you've mentioned search neighborhoods for people that own multiple properties, and that might be a good buyer. So I appreciate it, Carrie. Thank you. And Carrie, while I have you, you had also remarked that you've had pretty good success with our leads so far. Would you share that with the group?
Yeah. So I did get a listing. It was a duplex, and this guy had received a lot of letters and calls from other, investors, individuals. He said people had knocked on his door. So he was definitely inundated with, a lot of people. And I had just sent him a letter, and my letter the format has kind of evolved, but I think the format for the letter was basically like, I'm sure you're getting a lot of interest in this property. If you're in need of a market valuation, I invite you to reach out, no strings attached. And he said he liked that approach because there was no pressure. And he told me when he called me, I just want to be honest with you. There's people that are coming to look at the property. And so my approach was just, I wanted to add value and not put pressure on them. And then that is really, I think, what ended up getting me the listing. And when I did show up for the market valuation, there were 2 other cash buyers there. And I learned, in the end, that they were offering about 100,000 below what we ended up getting. And I think too, you need to kind of figure out like what each individual needs. Some people, they would rather, pay cash and have it be easy, not have to deal with anything. Some people are hell bent on not paying a commission. So then maybe you can find a buyer that will pay your commission. So just, trying to come at it from different angles. And then I did get 2 appointments. I didn't end up getting the listing on that, but I'm learning a lot about how to approach people. One gal, she just didn't want to pay a commission, and I did bring in a buyer, but it just wasn't the price that she wanted. And then I got another appointment last week. I brought in an investor, and this property didn't work for the investor, but I'm still in touch with this guy. And the offers he was getting were about 50,000 below market value. So I just sent him some comps, and I'm just going to kind of sort of try to touch base with them in a day or 2 and just see where things are at. So.
Perfect. And you triggered one other thing that I want to mention is, as much as, and you're right, as much as a lot of them are unrealistic, eventually they become more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the ones that have a sale in 2 or 3 weeks. It may be too late for them, but we've got one of our agents in New Jersey that has been nursing leads for months now. And I think he finally got the first one last week, but it took him 3 months, keep it after him, where we had time. So, hey, it's not a one size fits all approach for sure. And great job. Thank you for sharing.
Yep. Thank you.
Carrie, I want to jump in, and I know Jim knows this. I know there's some agents that also know this, but Jim had mentioned in the beginning when he'd kind of mentioned that he thought Michigan was the only state that had a redemption period.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurs to me that there are many people on this call and that are going to listen to this call who may be in Michigan, maybe they're in Minnesota, maybe they're in California, Texas, wherever, and they don't even know what a redemption period is. And I'm going to tell most of you guys that there are redemption processes in a lot of your states, even if you've never heard of it before. So quickly, I'd like Carrie to kind of explain what that is in Minnesota. and how you guys may be able to capitalize on that, or at least dig into it, even if you're not in Minnesota or Michigan.
Okay. So I'm not an expert in foreclosure. I just want to preface with that, but basically, the bank's going to give notice. You have the time to cure the default. You have the sheriff's sale. Someone can purchase the property or win the bid at the sheriff's sale. And then there is a redemption period where the owner still has time to, cure the default and pay back the lender. So it's not like you win the property at foreclosure and it's yours right away. You do have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
as a buyer.
So one thing that happens, guys, is if you all are ever, and I know this isn't specifically probate related, although it can apply to a lot of probate opportunities as well. If you watch sheriff sales and things like that, or if you get a probate and they've maybe quit paying the note on their parents' house months ago and it goes into foreclosure, check in your state and see if there's a redemption period or something like that. That house goes to foreclosure. The owner doesn't get kicked out in many states. They don't get kicked out right away. They can hold that property. I think where you are, Carrie, at 6 months, I think. And if you come along and offer to basically help save them and sell the property for a higher price, then they're going to move, but they're very frequently going to make the spread between what the sheriff's sale brought in and what they sell it for. And every state's a little different. And I don't live there, Carrie, so it might not be the full spread, but I believe in a lot of cases it's the spread. So you can really step in and help people that are about to get kicked out with nothing, move with dignity and with money. And the investors that bought the house at the sheriff's sale might not be too happy, but they have to wait anyway. There's that redemption period for a reason. So I'm just going to challenge you guys to look into that and look and see if that's something that you can offer, even if it's not a lead that was a foreclosure or a pre-foreclosure that Jim brings, even if it's a probate or just something regular, or even if you watch the sheriff sales. I want to challenge you guys to add that as a source in your business, if your state allows it. And I'm not promising anyone. I only know of the 2 states, but just because I only know of the 2 doesn't mean that there aren't a couple dozen more.
And Bruce,
so go look that up, guys.
You just triggered for me one of the first deals we got was probably the 4th or 5th in Michigan. I knew from my wife doing short sales that Michigan was a redemption state. And I was talking to a lady and she was just, she was crying, she was frantic. And I told her that, well, even after the sale, you've got 6 months. She said she had talked to numerous realtors, investors, and even attorneys, and no one had told her that. She almost didn't believe me. So just talk about knowing and bringing that value to the conversation. After that, she was sold on using the agent that I sent out a few days later. So it's bringing extra value, and a lot of that comes from knowledge.
Yep.
So perfect.
Awesome. Okay. So, Carrie, hang tight. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself again. I have no idea if you're going to want to chime in on any of this. This is starting off a little tiny bit different from normal. So I'll give our normal little ATL spiel here in just a minute. But I was just jotting notes while Jim and Carrie were having a talk. And there were some really important nuggets that I took out of that and things that I wanted to bring up to you guys. Number one is Carrie's going in and offering multiple options. And for those of you that when you meet with sellers, if you are not offering multiple options, please incorporate that into your plan where you are offering options. We talked about novations a few weeks ago. We talked about owner financing. We talked about cash offers. You could have investors that literally are buy and hold investors, and they, in many cases, pay full market price. I have an investor that every other purchase is a flip that he'll try to get at 70% or 70 cents on the dollar. And then the alternate investment, he'll use the profits from the flip as his down payment to buy at full market value, a buy and hold. So go in and look at who's buying properties in particular areas and neighborhoods and look for those people that own multiple properties. In a lot of cases, you're going to find that they're buying on the MLS at pretty close to full value. And if you can put a couple of people like that in your quiver, you've got something. So go find investors. They're not all going to be 70 cents on the dollar. And there are a lot of you guys on here that are investors. I want you to know that if you're buying at 60, 70 cents on the dollar, no judgment at all. Probate's a great lead source for that. If you're an agent, go find some people that buy properties. It's really easy and be able to offer those options to your sellers. Carrie mentioned kind of going in and having competition. If you are an agent here, so Carrie, had you known that on the appointment that you went on a couple of days ago or a week ago, had you known that there were 2 other appointments already on the books, and maybe you did, but I didn't get that impression. Had you known that, you'd have gone into the appointment with a little bit of a different mindset, probably. Probably. Okay. Only to find out that they were really not competitors of yours. Some people want to avoid the commission. They want to sell fast in a fire sale. They want to go with the investor that might cost them an extra 100,000. Some people want to do that. I'm just here to tell you guys, don't worry if there's competitors that are going in to list with you. What you do is typically going to be unique to you. And if you can present options, you have a really great opportunity of winning that business, even if it's someone. One of my favorite stories is the guy that I was going to make an extra 100,000. And he said, no, I want a cash offer. And I said, a cash offer is going to be 130. I'll get you 230. And he said, no, I want the 130. And I said, I think you're not understanding here. I said 230 if we list, and I'll clean the house out. No, I want the cash offer. Said, okay, I think I need to repeat this again. Cash offer 130, listing 230, and I'll clean the house out. Just make me the cash offer. So you've got people that are like that. And that's why you guys need options. Just be prepared and be ready, and know that just because there's competition doesn't mean that you're going to lose the business or it's not a worthy lead source. And I do see a couple of the questions that have come in chat. We're going to answer those here in a few minutes. The last thing that I'm going to talk about, and Carrie, you mentioned this, and please interrupt me if you've got something to chime in on. We talked about people's head being stuck in the sand. They're going through a foreclosure. They stick their head in the sand a lot of times. They do the same thing in probate. This is heavily a probate call. There are people that could literally sell the property within a week of filing probate, and probably should, but they put their head in the sand and they're dealing with other things, including grief, and they take time. So if you guys run into a lot of people that say, I don't know, we're not doing anything yet, we'll sell, but maybe later after probate, it's not your job to correct them. It's your job to build a relationship, build rapport, so that when they finally do pull their head out of the sand and they're ready to deal with something that they could have dealt with months ago, you have the authority, the credibility, and the relationship. So I wanted to give those plugs because they really fit really well with what we were talking about. And Carrie, Jim, if you guys have anything to add, please do so.
Yeah, well, I would just say, I'll admit the first few months I didn't make any phone calls because I was afraid to. And I actually do a fair amount of cold calling, but this just felt like different because there's death involved. And I finally started making calls this month, and I've been surprised at the response I've gotten. I especially get nervous about calling children of the deceased. And those actually have been the ones that are more willing to have a conversation with me. And I think if you just approach it, like my basic approach is I say, hi, so-and-so, like I say their name, and then they say yes. I say, hi, my name's Carrie. I understand you're the personal representative for the estate of, and then I say the person's name. I'm with Coldwell Banker. I'm just curious, are you planning on selling any real estate held by the estate? And then you get a yes or a no. And if there's a yes, I just start asking them questions like, well, where are you at in the process? What are you thinking? Do you think you want to go with a cash offer or list the property? And just let them talk as much as possible and take notes as they're talking. And then you can kind of assess what's their need. And then you try to meet that need. So, if they want the cash offer, okay, I have investors I can bring to you. Would we be able to come out and take a look at the property? Things like that. Or if they seem kind of standoffish, I'll maybe follow up with them with a letter or something like that. But just don't be afraid to call. If, I've had a couple people be a little bit rude, but you just end the call quickly and then you just move on. So I think you just got to get past that fear and just get comfortable with feeling a little uncomfortable. And then it just gets easier and easier. And, you don't even have to scrub the list. You can just call everybody, and some of them might not have property, but it takes 5 minutes to look that up versus 30 seconds to make the call. So, and then you can just kind of limit it that way. So
it's funny, Carrie, when I was doing a lot of personal outbound dialing, one of the things that I would frequently tell myself is it's going to be about 10 minutes for me to get in the groove. And that 10 minutes is going to be a little uncomfortable, a little awkward. I'm not really going to want to do it. And once I kind of break that barrier where I've put the 10 minutes in, first person's answered, I've gotten that over, maybe it's a good conversation in some cases, the discomfort goes away. So you guys need to get used to being uncomfortable. If you have a little bit of call trepidation, get used to being a little uncomfortable for 5 or 10 minutes while you make those calls. It goes away. It goes away. If you're calling for an hour, it's going to be 50 minutes with you being comfortable after the 10 minutes where you're a little nervous. Another thing is every call, you're going to know an outcome of that call inside of about 10 seconds of dialing. So if you dial and 10 seconds in, no one's answered, guess what? You know the outcome. They didn't answer. There was nothing to be worried about. If they answered, they're going to tell you within 10 or 15 seconds what's going on. If it's bad, move on. If it's good, you've got a lead. You've got a conversation. So don't think that it's 90 minutes of pain if you're doing an hour and a half of calling. The pain subsides. And then you're in the zone, you're in the groove, and things are good. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Carrie, you experience some of the same things?
The worst call I had was, and I've probably done about 50 calls, was just, I was speaking to his son, and once he understood that I was asking if they wanted to sell any property, he's like, I'm not comfortable with continuing this conversation. I was like, okay, thanks for your time. Hang up the phone.
Yep.
And they're going to forget your name 2 seconds after they hang up the phone.
Yes.
People are horrible with names, even more so on the phone. So they're not going to remember who they spoke to. And, it's almost like being anonymous, really, because they're not taking notes as they're having a conversation with you. So.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of a single person that called to offer me anything this week. And it's not because nobody called. I just can't remember any of their names or companies. So
yeah,
good point. All right, guys. Thank you, Carrie. You're welcome to wave at me and Jim and say, hey, I've got something to add in. Same thing goes for really the rest of you guys here. Wave at us, raise your hand. If this is your first time here or you've never listened to this podcast before and it maybe is after the fact, this is the All the Leads Mastermind. We're here live on Zoom. If you're listening after the fact on podcast or YouTube, you're welcome to join us live. You do not have to be a subscriber and actively working probate leads to come in here and join the Zoom. We do it every single Thursday, 1:00 Eastern time, 10:00 Pacific time. Don't even know what time that is in Alaska and Hawaii, so don't ask. So that's we do it every Thursday. We're here to take your questions. A lot of times we'll interview someone with some success. We'll ask you to raise your hand and share your success stories. Winner of the week, if you have a win, and let's say we have 2 or 3 people that had a big win, we'll pick a winner of the week every week. And whoever that winner is gets a discount on their leads the upcoming month. That's what we do. If you don't know, We provide probate leads. We also have a couple of other lead sources like divorce and pre-probate, but we're primarily here to talk about the probate niche. So we give those leads to agents all over the country. If you are looking for motivated seller leads, specifically those who've inherited real estate, talk to our sales team. Just go to alltheleads.com. There's a little chat feature there that you can chat. You can also call the number at the top of the screen. We're happy to talk to you guys, give you prices for your county. Part of what we do is we teach a system and we provide a system. So if you don't know what to do, we're going to encourage you guys to follow the system of make calls, send mail, have a website that people can check you out at. Is there more that you can add to your business? Absolutely. I'm 9 years into probate and I've added a bunch of different things into my business. You might want to add attorney relationships and YouTube and blogs, and you might want to do different things and add to your mailing campaign. But for the most part, if you guys are new, and I know that there are a lot of new people with us here and a lot of people that haven't started yet because you're just not sure what to do, you want to start with basically a sequence of about 3 or 4 letters, and we have the pre-designed templates. And as Carrie said, and I loved this, yours has evolved so much over time. My letters don't look like the templates anymore. They evolve every 3 or 4 months. I go in and tweak a couple of letters, and they don't look the same anymore. And that's totally fine. But if you don't want to write a letter from scratch, just pick one of our templates and put it into practice. So you want to send 3 or 4 months of mail. And this is going to go to one of the questions that was chatted in. 3 or 4 months of mail. Follow it with phone calls. So be calling throughout that process. The earlier, the better. And then the people that are covertly checking you out, they're sitting on the sidelines. You've called them 2 or 3 times and they haven't answered, and you've sent them 2 or 3 letters, and you think, or let me say this, your competition thinks that's a dead lead. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not a dead lead because what they're doing while their head is in the sand, while they're dealing with other things, they are checking you out. I've gone to appointments 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months after I got the lead, and I walk in and they've got a stack of my letters, or they have my website up and they say, "We've been watching you for months." I would have had no idea because they were doing it covertly. So you want to take that kind of 3-pronged approach so that people can check you out on their own timing at their own pace, but be there in front of them and building credibility the whole time. And that's where the business is. So I had Mike had chatted in. So once a new probate case is filed with the court, how long do you work that lead before you give up? Depends on the type of market that you're in, but let's pretend for a quick moment that you're in a relatively fast-paced kind of a city type of market. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. If I was going to be working leads in Raleigh, and for those of you that are in Raleigh, don't worry, I'm not working your leads. So if I was working, and when I have worked the leads in Raleigh, I would normally go 6 or 7 months before I kind of, I'm not even going to say give up, but before I really dial it back. After that 6-month mark, 7-month mark, I'm probably going to reach out again with a letter in 4 or 5 months. I might make a single phone call in 4 or 5 months. I just want to give them time. At that point, they know who I am. They've probably been on my website. They've probably seen me on YouTube. They've probably checked me out online, saved a couple of letters, gotten my voicemails. If they haven't called me, then I give them a little break at that point. And then I will pull them back up in several months for another basically single round of letter and phone call. So don't give up on people too quickly. If you're in more rural type of market, you might want to do 3 or 4 months. People tend in rural markets, they have more time on their hands. They tend to get through the process a little bit faster. So it doesn't take them quite as long, but I would never encourage anyone to give up on your lead earlier than 4 months. 6 or 7 months is really good. And then it's also good to pull an extra couple of touches in months after you dialed it back. So that's something I want you guys to keep in mind. Hopefully, Mike, that answered your question. All right. By the way, so if you guys do have questions and you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can chat those questions in underneath of the live, and it's going to come to us, and we're going to be able to answer those questions. If you're here on Zoom, you can chat your question into the chat. However, I'm going to challenge you guys. Please raise your hand. You can do it physically, like wave at us. Although I've got a couple of pages on Zoom, so we might not see you. You can wave at us, or you can go to the reactions button, click that little reaction face at the bottom of your screen, and raise your hand, and we will we'll call you up. You can ask your question. You can share your win, your story, things like that. So I'll give you guys a second. Jim, do you have anything that you'd like to chime in with? Do I have any of my long-standing subscribers that have had any success that you guys would like to chime in with?
If William Word is on the call, William was going to share. I don't know if I see him here, but
Okay.
Raise your hand, William, if you're here. My old friend Luke Johnson is on here. Luke, anything you'd like to contribute? Luke and I were having a good conversation this morning. And I don't want to speak for him, but he was talking like how he just first year with us, he absolutely killed it. And he's seeing more and more competition in the probate space. And it's kind of like what you were just saying, Bruce. There you are, Luke. How you doing? Unmute yourself. Let's talk. Luke is he and I have the distinction of coaching for the same trainer for many years. And Luke, I don't know why, it's the first time I saw you, I thought you were a lot younger than me. I know you are younger, but
He is a lot younger than you, Jim. What are you saying?
He is a lot younger.
We all are a lot younger than you, Jim.
Oh, well, thank you, Luke. How many years have you been in real estate, Luke?
32.
Okay, so yeah, I'm ahead of you by 18 years. So no problem. Yeah, we both coached for the same, and actually you were my coaching client for many years, I think, right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Mike, yeah. And
that has to be 20 years ago or more.
There you go. Anyway, Luke and I were just talking about this morning about, and Luke, go ahead, just share what you shared with me, and we can discuss it, please.
Well, for years, I got 6, 7, 8 probate listings a year, not working very hard, no letters. And now I'm working harder, and I only had a couple closings last year, and I strangely had a couple fall out last year due to the market changing and my fault overpricing and some babysitters that convinced the sellers to move on to another agent. I have gotten back on the calls because I want to sharpen my skills and make this thing profitable.
Yeah, and Bruce, Luke and I were just sharing, along with something you just said, when I was an agent, making 100 contacts a day, I would call all the FSBOs that expired within hours of them coming out, and I would call them for a few weeks. If I didn't get them, I would table them, and I'd call them a month or 2 or 3 later. And I found that 90% of them were sold, but the 10% that hadn't, everybody else had stopped calling. So I just shared with Luke, there's a similar strategy there, like what you were just saying. We've had so many agents that 6 months, a year later, they decide to get out their list and call, and they're amazed that they get 2 or 3 listings from year-old leads. How well
That's my new plan.
Yeah. All right, well, good. Bruce, anything else you would share with Luke?
Yeah. I think absolutely. It's Luke, I love that you're sharpening your skills. It's crazy because I stay in real estate, even though so much of what I do is training focused. Now, I always have to be a little bit involved in real estate and seeing what is changing. So I'll never not sell here in my North Carolina market. But I may not sell a lot. I always keep a little bit because things change. And what worked 2 years ago, 3 years ago, doesn't work so much anymore. And 2 or 3 years ago, what I used to do for probate, and this still works in some of your markets. So this is a great place to start for those of you that are new. 2 or 3 years ago, I'd call once a month for 3 months, and I'd send a letter once a month for 3 months. Technically, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I would just consistently pull a couple of deals a month out of that. What I've noticed is that there are more people, with the market being what it is, gravitating into the probate space. It's not flooded, but there are more people than there used to be. And almost all of your competition makes a lot of noise for about 30 to maybe 45 days. So when you catch people in the very beginning, which is the best time to catch them, they may have heard from people at that point. They may have gotten a mailbox full of letters or postcards. They may have gotten a few calls, always way fewer than they do get letters, though, way fewer. Most of your competitors are going to be going in with the approach of, I want to buy your house cash for low. And if you're an investor, please don't worry. That's not a bad approach. Or hey, I want to sell your house. And you guys offering a kind of a holistic approach where it's turnkey. I'll connect you with anyone that you need. I'll do a lot for you. That's going to separate you guys. But even then, in the beginning, you can expect more competition, especially this day and age. Agents specifically are starving for deals. So you can expect competition, but you can also expect that within 30 to 45 days, they're all going to go away. And that's one of the beautiful things about probate is the majority of people that are going to sell a house, it takes them 5, 6, 7 months to get to that point where they're selling, which leaves you between month 2 and month 6, a lot of time to build that relationship and make that connection where you don't have competition. So if you find out that a bunch of people called in month 1 or a bunch of people mailed in month 1, don't let it discourage you. Just stretch that campaign out a little bit and know that it's going to be clean waters later in the campaign when your competitors have burned through their 1 month of budget. So keep that in mind. It takes more time. People seem to stick their head in the sand a lot faster today than they used to. So they just get overwhelmed. I think our attention spans are shorter, and they do things when they have to, not when they need to. So they will very frequently sell the house when they have to, when they realize that the mortgage payments draining their estate bank account, and they go, wow, we're not going to get any inheritance. It's been 5 months. We've been making this $2,000 a month mortgage payment, and we gotta go ahead and sell this house. But it's more of a have to at that point. I find that, yeah, go ahead, Luke.
I have a story like that. I talked to these people. 8 years later, I got them as an internet lead, and I said, that sounds familiar. Did your parents pass away like 8 years ago? Yes. Well, this is not connecting. Why? Well, let's take a look at the house and get it sold for you. No. We're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready. So I said, it's not adding up. Let's get together. Even if you're not ready, we can market sometime later. Well, they were all the brothers and sisters were old, and they were all grossly overweight and on walkers, and they were sitting on this $500,000 house. And I said, well, I bet you I could bring an investor in here and sell this house, and you could just not have to do any more work. Could you do that? Yep. And so you got to get in there to help them. And one other super quick story, a woman that I really connected with, I knew we had a connection. I said, look, I want to be a realtor, but I want to be a professional stalker. I'm going to stop calling. And she called right back and said, you're right, I got to do something about this. Let's get together. So those are 2 quick success stories for anybody.
That's a beautiful line. I love that. I might use it. I want to be your realtor, but I don't want to be your stalker. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I don't want to be a professional stalker.
Got it.
Hey, Luke, I had one kind of similar. I was relentless with FSBOs, and I called this guy, I don't know how many days in a row. And I just got the sense that he had a sense of humor, even though he was annoyed. He wasn't completely aggravated with me. And he said, my God, are you going to call me every single day? And I said, hey, there's one way to get that to stop. List your house with me, and you'll never hear from me again. You'll never hear from me again if you list. And he said,
I have a solution for you, pal.
He said, you got a sense of humor, come on out tomorrow. And obviously I didn't mean that I would never hear from him again, but
yeah, you listed his house and you probably never called him after that.
I didn't have to. But sometimes you just got to have fun with it. You got to have fun. It's not brain surgery for sure. Yeah. Have a sense of humor for sure.
And people like it. Those that answer, a lot of times, Carrie mentioned that there were a few people that were annoyed, but most people are really chill. You get them on the phone. It's not going to be 90% of the people that answer. If you guys get a 10 or 15% answer rate, don't be shocked. That's not a problem. Those that do answer, they're normally going to be pretty laid back and tell you the truth. They may not say, "Hey, yeah, thank God another stranger called me, come sell the house." They might not say that, but it starts the dialogue and it starts your rapport building process. So want you guys to kind of know that. Good stuff, Luke. Please, same with Carrie. You guys hang out, wave, and interrupt if you've got something to chime in on, because you guys have some experience that we'd like to hear from. So if you want to chime in, White, I'll come to you in just a second. I want to answer a couple of the questions that have been chatted in. So Chris, my buddy Chris, said in 8 months, targeting 200 leads a month for about 8 months. Is that going to be good for about 3 listings as a reasonable goal? So in other words, Chris gets about 200 leads. He targets those leads for 8 months, and he's hoping to get about 3 listings out of each set of 200 leads. And yes, that's extremely realistic. I like to target between 1.5% of my list and 3.5% of my list is my goal to get business with that many people. So 200 leads, if you got a 1.5% conversion rate, that'd be 3 listings. If you got a 3.5% conversion rate, it'd be 7 listings. So somewhere in that range, as long as you're consistently in front of them with voice conversations, trying to get those appointments. So Luke could have let those folks go that were overweight and on walkers. You could have let them go. They said they weren't ready, and you said, "Look, you don't have to do anything now, but just meet with me so that you know later what you can do." Okay, brilliant. You want to get face to face to people, so it's that combination. It's mail. It's communicating with them. It's trying to get appointments when you can, even if you're telling them, "Look, I know you're not going to list right now. Let's just meet. I'll give you a plan so that you know for later." Okay. And Luke,
anybody else asking, when will you be at the house?
Yeah,
I'll probably be at the house doing some cleaning. I'll come see you then. Don't make a special trip for me. Oh, we're out in Lansing. It's 2 hours. You're going to be there. You're going to be there. When I'll meet you there.
Luke, that's a great question. One of the things that I like to do is say to people, "Hey, look, why don't I just take a quick pass by the house? I'll just drive by someday on my free time and shoot you just a ballpark of what you might be able to expect. Is that okay?" And then they say yes. And I go, "Better yet, when are you going to be there next? Why don't I just do it when you're there?" Okay. So you can ease into it as well, but finding when they're there is beautiful. I haven't heard a lot of other people bring that up, Luke. Sorry to interrupt.
And Bruce, Carrie's got her hand up again. I guess we muted her out. I think she had something she wanted to contribute.
Let's go to Carrie. White, promise we're coming to you. I do have another chatted question just in front of you, and then we'll go to you, White. Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay. We've got some construction in my basement, so hopefully there's not too much background noise, but this is just kind of inspiring me to get more organized with my leads. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but you can download a spreadsheet of the probate leads. And normally in my normal lead database, that's not probate. I have a spreadsheet, it's got the person's name, address, phone number, email, notes, so after this call, what I want to do is just go through all of my months of leads from November to present day, download the spreadsheet, copy and paste on Excel, and just kind of modify the categories and just kind of start tracking leads that way. So I'm not going in 1 month and then I'm going to click on the next month. So I think having everything in one place is going to seem less overwhelming. And it's very simple to do. You download it, you copy and paste the columns, put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And, like I said, that's what I normally do with my other leads. And it's very easy to track stuff that way. You don't need to have a sophisticated system or a CRM. And I think then, as leads kind of drop off, it'll seem less overwhelming, and you can kind of have a column where you take notes. Okay, talk to this person on this date, or sent a letter, or, maybe have a column for first letter sent, second letter sent, third letter sent, because I am not sending more than like one letter. And I need
Yeah.
to start doing that more. So I think just getting organized and having a system, and it doesn't have to be complicated, but I think that's how I'm successful in my other business. And I need to replicate that with probate.
Yep.
And when you think about like, cause I do go back and look at some of the leads from months past, not a lot, but I'm like, oh, that one sold, that one sold. Like the sell ratio is very high compared to just if you're like farming an area, you know, or whatnot. So it's like, this is a lot of opportunity, but I think if we're not organized and we don't follow up, we're just letting business, you know, we're giving it to someone else essentially. So that's something I would like to do is just get organized and have a system. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. And your what you just described is going to be a great system for you and a lot of other people. Most of us think we have to have a sophisticated CRM, and I'm sick of talking about the CRM that is coming out soon, month, 2 months. I know you guys are tired of hearing about it. It will help you organize that inside of the All the Leads CRM. It's just takes forever to build a CRM. So we've got that coming. So Carrie, be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, do exactly what you just described because it's going to work. So thank you so much. Let's go to White and then coming to Arrington, Mike, Arrington and Mike after White. And then guys, I've got to jump out in about 10, 11 minutes because I've got prospecting mastery class. If you guys have never taken prospecting mastery class and you want to know what to say, how to say it, how to build relationships on the phone, 1 month, you can't jump in today if you haven't already signed up, but in 1 month, we're doing it again. Go on alltheleads.com and click training and sign up for that class. It's a 2-day class. Today's day 2. And we go through how to open your call, how to deliver your USP, how to handle their resistance, not objections, but their resistance. So how to handle that, when to bring real estate up. Should you bring it up like Carrie in the very beginning, or should you wait till a little bit later? It kind of depends on you guys. So I talk about when I bring real estate up, and ultimately what Luke was just sharing is when to ask for that meeting. And you don't want to say, why don't we have an appointment? Because appointment's a bad word for them. If they want to be resistant, appointment's going to scare them off. When can we meet? Really important. I liked how Luke said that. So that prospecting mastery class, go in and sign up for that. If you've never taken Probate Foundations, sign up for the class at the beginning of next month. That's kind of a good precursor to the prospecting class in the middle of next month. So just wanted to get that plug in there for those that have not taken that. I see a bunch of familiar faces who have taken it. So if you haven't, join that class. It's going to be, it's powerful. All right, White, go ahead and unmute yourself, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I made some calls this morning, and I got this. I know a lot of people don't like to call the widows, but I called this lady, and I had a good conversation with her. But she brought up something that I've had to deal with a family member. Her question was, "Is this fraud?" She said, and I have never been asked that. Is it fraud? Is this? I mean, it's rampant right now in more ways than we could ever. None of us are probably smart enough to do what these folks are doing, or too honest to do that. But I just told her, and I wanted to share this with the group. I just told her to call the office and verify who I was, because you could. Because then after I told her, she opened up to me and said, "I've got 3 more properties other than the one you called on."
Amazing. So is this fraud, which would be a major put off to a lot of you guys calling, turned into potential for 4 properties?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it just having a conversation with her, and she was very standoffish. I got her first name, and then we had about a 10-minute conversation. And I'm gonna drop some information in the mail to her, and I'll follow back up with her. But I don't blame her for being standoffish. I mean, she's a widow, and I'm sure a lot of people have called her. But I thought, I'd kind of learned from what I'd been through, and it was really good.
Well, you would be standoffish. I'm standoffish when I get a cold call, and we're all standoffish. So don't be surprised. I was prospecting one day, and I called someone, and they literally just registered as a buyer on my website 3 minutes earlier. And so I called them, and they said, "I don't know what you're talking about," and they hung up on me, and it made me really mad. Made me real mad. And I was sitting there stewing, and it just struck a wrong chord that day. I've been hung up on many times, and it struck a wrong chord. And my phone rings, and I looked down, and I didn't know the number, and I answered, and someone said, "Hey, we're giving you a call about health coverage." And I said, "I don't want any health coverage," and I hung up. And I sat there for a couple of minutes, and I went, "Wow, I just did the same thing to that person that I just had done to me." And it made me mad when it was done to me. But the point is, guys, we would be standoffish as well. And when someone presents that initial barrier, that initial resistance, it's not the end of the relationship. It's normal. It's normal. And I would hope, if you guys do prospect at all, I would hope that you can recognize that sometimes it just takes a minute or two to push through that resistance, and people's walls drop. It's happened to me thousands of times where people are resistant. And then all of a sudden you go through this imaginary barrier, and they open up and they just start talking. And that White sounds like happened to you, kind of resistant.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the barrier was broken. So,
And I got another one I've been trying to, I actually went to see him, and I got him yesterday. Well, he answered yesterday, and then I guess he realized who it was, and he hung up. But I guarantee you, I'm the only one still calling him. And when he's ready to do something, he'll, I think my chances are a lot better than anybody else.
Yep. Good. White, thanks a lot, man. Anything else? I've got a couple of chatted questions I want to get to, but I'm not going to kick you off here real quick.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I want to go to Arrington. We get this question a lot. So talk about divorce leads. Where can you get pricing on that? Divorce is tricky. It's a limited rollout right now. Go to alltheleads.com and call the phone number at the top of the web page, or that little chat bubble down in the bottom right. You can chat and talk to a salesperson about that. See if your county is available. It's not. I can't get divorce leads where I am. The different states have different levels of control over how they release that. It is public information, but it can be difficult in some states and some localities to get that. So just check on your county by calling the line at the top of the website, or chatting with the little chat bubble at the bottom of the site, Arrington. Mike, your first question is quite complex, and I'm going to ask you to go to alltheleads.com, click the training, and then professional real estate coaching under the training, and or chat in and mention that you want a coaching call with me. We can talk about that a little bit deeper. It's a complex subject, and I'm not 100% I understand that. But let me go to your next question. Do you prefer to use a branded letter, an envelope with your company name, or a non-branded letter coming from an individual? What's getting the better response? And every different lead that you have is going to have a different formula for using you. You have no idea what the individual's formula is. Some people want a form letter with a branded envelope. Some people want an individual letter that's a couple of lines. Some people want a postcard. Everybody has a formula. So because of that, one letter I send out may be form letter. One letter I send out might be branded envelope. Another letter might just look like it's coming from just an individual next door. I might use a postcard. I'm changing it up all the time. And there's something to be said for those of you that have had success doing the same letter 3 months in a row. Some of you guys have success with that. I change every single letter. One is highly professional, one's short form, one's long form, one is guy next door, one is in your face real estate. Because I am looking for that formula. If they haven't responded to my first couple of letters, I don't know if it's because they're waiting or if it's because it wasn't appealing. So that's why I like to change those letters up. So that would be my encouragement, is make some very professional in form and branded, and others non-branded. And then Mike, do you find it easier to get a listing as a realtor or easy to get below market value as an investor? I think that if two skilled individuals are going head to head, skilled individuals, you've got a realtor and an investor. The realtor will typically get about 65% of the business, and the investor 35 to 40% if they're both equally skilled. If you're an investor up against a realtor that doesn't have your level of communication and appointment skill, you might make that 50-50 because some people just legitimately want a full priced offer. Same with us realtors. Some people, you go in and they flat out don't want to list. So just kind of look at maybe a 60-40 ratio that's a little bit more weighted to the realtors. If you're a realtor and you're up against an unskilled investor, you should win like 80-90% of the time if the investor that might be in there is unskilled and unfamiliar with how to present their options. All right. Hope that helps. And it is 2:00. I want to go to David really, really fast, and then I have to jump and let Jim close the call out. But David, go ahead. If it's something I can answer fast, I'll do it. If I can't, I'll let Jim take it. And then I've got to go jump in our class that's about to start.
Hey, how you doing, Bruce?
Great, man.
I just had like two quick questions. I think the guy's name was White who had asked about it. He was saying how someone had asked him if he was like a fraud or fraudulent, and he told the person just to call the office. So I'm not a licensed realtor, and I don't have an office for someone to call. Is there a way that a regular investor would be able to overcome that kind of comment from someone?
Sure. I would say get yourself a little bit of content where you've got your credibility website, hopefully, or get a credibility website. Tell them to go check your site out. You might want to put a couple of blogs out there. You could use Active Rain or WordPress or Google's Blogger. Put a couple of blogs out there with some written education on the topic, maybe a video or two if you're comfortable in front of the camera. Send people there. If somebody were to ask me if I was fraud, I would first want to get on their same page by saying, hey, that's a great question. It sounds like you've probably seen some fraud. Okay. It sounds like you've probably seen some fraud. Yeah. No, I'm right here local in the area. As a matter of fact, if you want to check me out, here's my website. And here's a couple of things that I can send you that show that I actually help in this space. Could I ask you a question and then steer it off of the fraud question? You take charge by asking them a question after you've kind of briefly addressed their concern with a few sites or an office to call.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I just have one more question. As far as mailers, is there like an affordable go-to place, like a website or anything that you could buy like first class stamps in bulk for affordable price?
Oh, not really.
Okay.
First class stamps are typically gonna be the same price whether you're buying on bulk or not. It's possible that there's a discount. Now with mail, we at All the Leads, we get bulk rates, and a lot of times with ours you can it might cost a little bit more than if you were doing it yourself, but not more than your time is worth. So think about looking at ours. Otherwise, if you're doing it yourself, I don't know of a particular site where you could buy discounts on a bulk rate. I wish I could answer that a little bit better for you. I know we have really good affordable prices if you're on autopilot though.
Okay.
Thank you. Go get them. I'll handle it from here.
Okay.
I don't want you to be late for your call. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, David, I was going to comment on, just take a couple more minutes real quick. I don't know if you know, but when the post office raised their rates, we actually lowered ours. And I don't know what it's called, but instead of sending them first class, it looks absolutely identical, but it takes a day or two extra to get there. So it's actually, I think we're getting closer to being competitive to doing it yourself. The other thing I was going to address as far as the fraud component, normally I wouldn't even mention it unless they bring it up. These leads that I'm calling and I'm farming off to you guys, these are people in foreclosure. Talk about the number of cold calls they get, and the amount of fraud is unbelievable. There was a couple of them, we had appointments and people called guaranteeing they could save their house. And so I just tell the people, now I'm going to have one of our agents reach out and just be careful. There's a lot of fraud out there. Just know that anybody I'm going to send you is never going to ask you for any money up front, and they're never going to charge you anything unless they're able to help you. So, you know, but typically I would not even answer it unless it comes up. Anyway, does that answer all your questions pretty much for now, David? You still there? All right. I think we lost David.
Hey,
now
I'm sorry, it won't let me.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Does that answer all your questions?
Yes, Jim. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. You're very welcome. Since Bruce is gone, I was going to say this in front of him, and I know he knows that I mean it. This past week, I decided to actually make it all the way through a foundations and a listing course. And I have to tell you, I was absolutely blown away. Luke and I coached for one of the best coaches out there. The content of what Bruce offers and the way he delivers it, it's not a one size fits all. Any of you that have taken the listing course, he starts out by saying, I'm not going to tell you the only way to do something. It might not even be the best. It's a way. Bruce has an extraordinary way of giving you a multitude of options without making it sound complicated. So I was going to tell you, I think 3 of his 4 courses are free and the other one is ridiculously cheap. If you guys haven't taken all 4 of the courses, you're missing out. Because Luke and I charged $1,000 a month for stuff that I don't think was nearly as good as we were. So take all of his courses, please. Take advantage of what we have to offer. It's included with your subscription. And I want to close like I always do. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to thank Luke and Carrie and White and David and everybody who actively participated. I want to challenge each of you, take one great idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.